Okay, so to summarise, just a quick session with Chain to wrap up what he did at the end of Chapter 4, Court of Blood, before he catches up with everyone else. So Chain was quite significantly injured during Lord Acheron's depraved hunt, when Chain, realising things might go bad, all the same still stood up to defend the poor beleaguered peasant fleeing from their hounds, and was, I'm sad to say, soundly beaten.
He was smacked right down to the floor.
And his, no doubt, centuries of experience. However, over the last few days, ever since the mists started, just as Hannah had been seeing in her dreams a vision of a ruined elven tower, Chain had been seeing in his waking hours a red-robed figure wreathed in flame in the distance, as if calling to him through the mists. And so what we've just concluded is that on the night that the other companions are taken to have dinner with Lady Vetus, Chain, seeing the figure in the distance beyond the bounds of Bilehall, decides he's going to seek them out. The servants help to equip him for his journey into the mists, making sure that his wounds are at least bound, if not fully healed, and Chain leaves a message for his companions so they shouldn't worry when they return. And so Chain sets off out into the streets of Bilehall. He's been furnished by the servants with a heavy cloak, partly to protect him from the cold, and partly to keep him concealed as he moves through the streets at night. And after turning a few corners, he becomes grateful to their diligence, as those he passes on the streets seem untrustworthy sorts, eyeing strangers suspiciously. Chain is grateful of the ability to hide his features behind the cloak and carry on through these cobbled streets, the mist sort of clawing at him with cold fingers. As Chain ventures beyond the bounds of Bilehall, he finds himself back in the moors under this moonlit sky. It's dark, he can't rightly see his way, but again the servants furnished him with a torch to light his path, and so he sets off into the mists, not yet knowing which way to go, but following his feet, and trusting that he's on the right path. As the mists close in tightly around him, the world sort of becomes obscured. He can no longer see the sky, he can no longer see Bilehall behind him. And just as he did as he was travelling towards Bilehall in the first place, he starts to, in the mists like clouds, see familiar shapes, or shapes that remind him of things. And he's struck to be reminded of the Silver Goblet Trio. Remember the Silver Goblet Trio?
I do remember them.
In his ears, he can hear echoes of their voices during their defiant defence of Newstone, and then their resolute final stand as they come up against the Etin. Can I get you to make a easy deception check, discipline check? That's the one.
Discipline. Yeah.
And put a negative upgrade on it, because this is an unresolved trauma for you.
Mm-hmm. Easy, you said, yeah?
Easy, yeah.
Yeah, we've got it. Okay.
Okay. So Chain succeeds. He sort of shrugs off the supernatural unsettlingness of the mists seeming to take shape and speak to him. But couple of threats. He's left reminded of the Silver Goblet trio. His sort of his mind running over their names, their faces, plagued a little bit by them as he proceeds forward. So the trauma that Chain feels with regards to their loss in Newstone, it still weighs on him. Okay, the memory hasn't gone, and he'll carry it with him
absolutely.
For a little while.
While longer.
A little while longer.
Yep.
Cool. So he presses on through the mists and starts to think that he can see this red road wreathed in flame shape in the distance. But the mist keeps sort of getting in the way, trying to obscure his path. And as he presses on towards them, he once again sort of starts to hear Siegfried's voice in the mist speaking to him. So going to have another discipline check. It's the same again, easy. But add 2 setbacks onto this one instead. As it is the voice of his nemesis that is taunting him in the dark.
Yes, absolutely. Can't see the results, so you're going to have to tell me how these get resulted.
Don't see any results either.
I haven't rolled it yet.
Oh, you're not seeing the results.
Seeing it on the history, basically.
1 success, 1 threat. So it's the same check as last time. Do you want to come up with how Chain reacts to that then? So he's brushed off the supernaturalness, but there's something lingering there. There's something that bothered him about it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think by this point, like, it's trauma that Siegfried's defection has inflicted on him has, he lies awake at night about it anyway. And I think, like, it's like every time it happens, like, the new Siegfried, the one that's turned on him, will say something that's like completely contradicts something that he would have said, in their boyhood years, and now he's conflicting. Like, I don't know which is the real Siegfried at this point, and it's bringing up a lot of feelings, obviously.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds good. Good. Chain struggling with this, which is always good fun.
Yeah.
Chain isn't certain how long he's been in the mists for, but eventually they clear slightly. He finds himself on a small hilltop, not quite high enough to sort of get a really commanding view, but he definitely feels like he's climbing over these moors, and the mists sort of clear a little bit in this higher spot. Up ahead in the distance, middle distance really, he can see this structure built on top of the hill. It's mostly collapsed. A few walls remain, and it has a very sort of distinctive shape, as temples and churches often do. He doesn't think this is a temple or a church to any deity that he's familiar with, but they all sort of carry this similar style, often with a spire that you can see mostly sort of present and then an area for congregating, sort of hall or long space. But this is collapsed and dilapidated. But there's a sort of flame-like glow from inside that you can see reflected slightly on some of the walls and through broken windows. What would Chain like to do?
This flame I get that he's probably a little bit too far away from it, but like, does he sort of does he sort of feel a familiar like warmth emanating from it? Like, is this something he would recognize as a holy sort of flame?
Yeah, good question. Yes, there is a warmth to it. Chain might be slightly struck that obviously there was flames in Bilehall. There was candlelight and lamplight and so on and so forth, but it had a sort of coldness to it. This, in contrast, and certainly in contrast to the mists around him, does seem warmer. Doesn't necessarily get like a holy sense, like he feels like but holy in the sense that it's separate and sort of has a quality that seems foreign to this blighted land. Does that help?
It does. It does. Well, he'll take it as a sign that someone is lighting his way. He chooses to believe it's Kelos, and he will cautiously stride towards it.
Okay. As he heads towards the building, it doesn't take him long to cross the open ground between him and it, and this is no fortification. The walls and doorways are collapsed enough that there's many different entry points. And Chain might approach one, and as he does, he can see that the reflection of the flames, sort of dancing firelight, and as he gets closer, he'll see a small sort of campfire within the ruined building, and around and about it, a sort of paraphernalia of someone living as a rudimentary shelter made out of one of the walls and a bit of tent, and looks like some area where game has been prepared for eating, and all the sort of trappings that you'd expect for something where someone was living. A little rough, but living. By the fire, with their back to him, you can see a figure. They appear to be wearing a robe, but because of the angle, they're sort of darkly silhouetted by the flames, so you're not getting a lot of colour from them, but they do seem to sort of have this flame aura in a sense, because the fire's on the other side of them.
Sure.
Chain approaching, in a very literal sense this time. They don't react very much, at least initially, not while Chain is sort of just glancing in through a crumbled doorway. What does he want to do?
He'll approach slowly. I'm not going to say like he's trying to sneak in, because he's not trying to conceal his presence there. He's more like, I'm cautious what is reaching out to me. But I think if once he gets to a close enough distance, that like the presence sort of potentially would definitely know that he was there, even if they weren't paying attention, then he would just sort of go, I have come.
Why don't you come by the fire and warm yourself? They say without turning their head.
Chain will do so.
As Chain comes,
furiously trying to get like a peek under the hood, perhaps, but without being so obvious.
As Chain comes around, the guy is wearing these sort of heavy, dark robes. They do look like they're of a red colour. Hood up, face cast in shadow, just the light of the flames on one side, which means they're more silhouetted. Got quite sort of hawkish, angular kind of features. They're clean shaven, which might be a bit of a surprise for someone sort of living out in the woods as such. Around their neck, you can see this silver chain with an icon of Kelos's flaming hand, or something. Not quite sure what Kelos's flaming hand, actually, if it's in a particular posture. Might just be that. I'll check. With flames wreathed around it, around his neck. And there's at the hip, attached to a sort of scabbardy rope thing, there's a mace. So you've come at last.
Yes. Wasn't sure this place is a true vision and what is just deception. There seems to be a lot of it about here.
You're not wrong there. In Bilehall, there's much of deception. I wonder what business brought you to that cursed place.
I sometimes ask myself that question. Before I answer, might I ask who you are?
The figure lowers their hood. They pause, they take a breath, and they lower their hood. You can see that they're tall, stern-faced, bald-headed, and they turn to sort of look at you, come up a little closer, and say, "There are those here who call me the Red Knight. My name is Crolin."
I knew it! So Shane will be taken aback by that revelation. The name Crolin Anadin, how much of that has been told through legend? Because I know he had a interesting departure from the ending of the last one. So was his name recorded in legend, or did someone just know that guy?
Okay, let me just check my time frames, because that will help. So where have I got that?
Lives.
He does live. He is alive. They're all alive, isn't they?
Yeah, from him now.
Yeah, that is very nice. That was an interesting one.
So, Crolin Anadin would have been spoken of with the same kind of renown as any of the others, with regards to the legacy of Saradin, the heroes of Saradin. So Bianca Amafrey, Bearbrand the Smith. I think that's the name that would have been remembered, Bearbrand the Smith, rather than Hyario Brookridge, which of course was his real name.
Cool.
Bernardin and Saphir, again, probably Saphir would have been the name remembered by those who spoke of the heroes of Saradin that defeated Lady Eliza when she attempted to conquer Terrinoth using the Black Casket, which of course that occurred at the same time that you guys were just trying to defend Newstone. So that's the time frame. That was only really a year ago.
True. You keep forgetting it was only a year ago.
So
Yeah.
they're not legends in the same way that this isn't stories that have been passed down, but
No, sure.
you, Chain, might have reason to know, and this is sort of up to you whether your character would have reason to know who Crolin is, and what his relation is to the story of Saradin. That's sort of up to whether your character would have taken an interest in that story.
I think he's ever since his childhood, like, he has always had a bit of case of hero worship. So even though he doesn't maybe want to outwardly express it, he always still has that little boy inside him that goes, "That hero did that," sort of thing. So I think he would have at least remembered their names,
Right.
even if he wasn't privy to the full story, sort of thing. So I think he would at least recollect that Crolin was part of that. that feat.
I suppose it's obviously worth me noting that with regards to the story that was told, Julian Quarantine was probably included as a
Of course, yeah.
group as well, especially because he died in the process. So, like, as far as the heroes of that particular story are told, it's probably those 5 rather than just those 4. But that's just a sort of
That makes sense.
yeah.
Right. Yes. So with that revelation, Chain will sort of sit back and go. People have been looking for you for a while now.
I can't imagine why.
I don't know how much you keep in contact with comrades back in arms, but Terrinoth is heading towards a dark direction. I think now is the time. We need as many heroes as we can get.
I have been called to battle in the north. I wait for the omens to be right. Darkness does beset Terrinoth from all directions. That much I have seen. But I am not the hero to avert it.
Your companions are. Maybe it isn't my place to say, but I feel that they are really struggling. And I assume you've heard of what's happened to the Smith.
The Red Knight puts a hand over the holy symbol around his neck and says, I felt his passing. After much darkness and doubt, he is finally at peace. Not all death is an evil.
You need to understand.
Why are you here?
It's a long story. But long and short of it is the mighty Sapphire Sorceress has located the arc blades of the Baroque Order. I keep forgetting their name.
Bloodguard.
Bloodguard, thank you. Yeah. Blades of the Bloodguard. And I've seen it firsthand what these things can do. Power they wield of corruption is devastating, to say the least. So we're on a quest to obtain them, to limit the damage they can do.
I see. So why are you here?
For a vision that one of the blades dagger was being held within the Mistlands or within some sort of dark court. And that's really all we had to go off. Our insight and our visions and our bad luck led us down this path, and now we have to retrieve the weapon before it's misused by a darker power.
A noble quest, perhaps. Many enemies threaten Terrinoth at present. My eyes are firmly fixed on one. It can be hard to see where other threats come from, but I trust that if Kalos has guided you to me, then the blazing Lord of Light and Justice has a plan for you yet.
How did you know I was coming?
I have been shown your path within the flames. Tends to look to the fire in front of him. It sparks somewhat ominously, as if possessed of its own volition.
I'm afraid my powers to communicate with Kelos are nowhere near as strong as yours. I know the power of which you speak in some small regard. I've experienced it myself.
That is understandable. You stand in the presence of a knight of Kalos, whereas you are merely a marshal.
That's correct.
The darkness is coming. There is no power that can stop it now. The blazing light of life and justice looks down upon us to see if we are worthy of being saved from what is to come or abandoned to our doom. As he speaks, he's looking at the flames, which again seem to take a life of their own. The mace at his hip sort of flickers with a similar firelight. 8 marks have been promised. From the first, when the seal was broken, to the last, when darkness falls. 6 have already fallen. 2 remain. Any marshal can call on Kelos's name, but if you are worthy, you can be much more. You have been called as a quester of Kalos. Should you succeed in the trials, you will be a knight.
Are you going to engage in the trials if I did?
To that, Chain is taken aback. I don't know what to say.
Do you wish
What is it?
to undertake the trials? Must be chosen.
I cannot possibly see how I could be worthy, but it is something which Lord of Justice feels that I should do, then of course I will take it.
Then let us see if you are worthy. First, I will test you I will train you to see if you are capable. Draw your sword.
With that, he goes for his bat and then goes for the one single-hander strapped to his side, and sort of flicks his wrist about to try and remember how to use a one-handed sword.
Krolin, or the Red Knight, looks at Chain a little perplexed by his lack of finesse. There we go. And rather than reaching for the mace at his hip, he picks up a sort of long iron poker instead in one hand. That's an unwieldy thing. He steps back to an open space within the ruins building, and then sort of beckons at Chain. Come on then. Show me what you're capable of. And he sort of gestures for Chain to strike.
The legend. Looking up. Smirks.
You're cutting out ever so slightly, so I mostly heard what you said there, but you might want to repeat it.
He just said, "Being with a legend." And he sort of like smiles to himself. Things are looking up. And then he wants to make a strike.
Go on then. Roll melee light against.
I haven't added a one-handed sword to my inventory yet, so you're gonna have to get the stats up, I'm afraid.
It's fine. I don't need to take damage. It's a melee light check. Like this isn't an attack because we're not in combat. We're doing this is narrative. Getting you to make melee into it. Well, say what's fairest? We will say how beefy do I want to make crime? Go on. One red, one purple. One red, one purple.
Red, one purple.
Oh, and a black. Just that. Yeah. Cool. Chain lunges forward with his sword, and it looks like he might land a blow on the Red Knight's sort of upper arm. At the very last second, Krolin lifts his forearm. The robe sort of dropping down a little bit to reveal that he's got a plate gauntlet on his arm, which catches the blow, and then he, in response, 3 threats, he jabs Chain in the torso with his sort of poker and pushes him back. Not much use cutting off my arm if I cut into your chest. You swing a sword like a child. What is wrong?
Well, I'm just getting warmed up.
Good. Then go again.
They should really incorporate like a button that's just like re-roll last check or something.
That'd be quite good.
That'd be handy. I'll mention it to the I'll put it on there.
Committee, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, your channel,
I can do that. And the black, sorry.
Okay. Oh dear.
Can't see what the result.
One success, 3 advantages, 1 despair.
Okay.
Or 1 success, 2 advantages, 1 despair.
He said the day was looking up. He didn't say it was good.
This time, Chain comes forward again with his sword. They clash weapons a couple of times, and Chain seems like he manages to get the upper hand, sort of managing to get his blade out toward the Red Knight's neck. Red Knight sort of nods his head, and then then sort of kicks his foot against a bit of the scenery nearby, which pings up a stick, which just clean knocks out Chain's legs. So he ends up sort of crumpling on the ground to watch Cronin brings his poker down to sort of direct it at Chain's neck. But you do need to be more careful of your surroundings. Again.
It's game face on now.
Game face on.
This time I'll remember that.
2 failures. Frustrated from his
Yes.
embarrassment, Chain goes in for a quick overhead lunge. Cronin just sort of steps forward under his arm and smacks him on the back with the poker as he goes the other way. You're getting worse. What's the matter with you? Not your usual weapon.
Oh, I'm used to something a little bit more meatier.
Well, that's no excuse. The forces of darkness won't wait whilst you pick up your preferred weapon. A Knight of Kalos must be ready to face evil, no matter the time or place, no matter the personal sacrifices.
Not sure how this would work, but just because it's now, because we are in the narrative setting, is there anything around the camp that he feels like he could use as a two-handed weapon and wield it like a two-handed weapon long enough, rather than using the sword?
Possibly.
In an attempt to show more initiative
I'll let you spend a story point on it to find some big plank of wood, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, yeah.
He kicks up a board and throws the sword aside. And then sort of gets a feel for it. And then holds it like he normally would, two-handed.
Gestures like that. Again. Oh, wait. We're using a bit of stick. So, we will call this an improvised weapon of a sort. So, you will have to negatively upgrade it again. So, add another negative upgrade and add a threat. Just an outright threat, which you can add into the check. Because it's, yeah, you'll roll better dice, but this is definitely a worse weapon.
Yeah, sure. A straight out threat, you said. Yeah, I think that's right.
Hey. Okay. With a much better feel for the weapon this time, Chain steps forward, swinging it out, and he puts Cronin on the back foot quite quickly. There's a little bit of to and fro, thrust and parry, before Chain, with his triumph, does actually manage to disarm the Red Knight, knocking his poker out of his hands. However, as he does, Cronin doesn't concede by any means, sort of ducks away, forcing Chain to swing again. This time he swings his big stick, and as Cronin ducks out of the way of another strike, it collides with one of the stone walls of the building, sort of snapping 2 feet off the end. As Cronin sort of steps back into view. Better. But you can't always rely rely on your one skill. The first vow of a Knight of Kelos. Meditation. Seek your guidance from the blazing light of life and justice. Meditate daily upon this. Krolin rearms himself with the poker that he picks up. Go again.
So, Jane.
You can have another setback on this check.
Okay. Before he strikes, then he'll sort of try and take points of what Colin was saying, and I guess they're sort of fighting around the fire. That is how I'm picturing it. Is that, yeah. So I guess he's sort of like trying.
It's very iconic. It's very big dress.
Yeah, so rather than just rushing in, like recklessly attacking like he was doing before, he'll try and like center his stance this time, and like almost as if he's like trying to open himself up, like sort of like trying to absorb the atmosphere, sort of like what is this room telling me? You know, what is Kelos instructing here, sort of thing.
As he calms himself, there's a stillness. You can hear the crackle of the fire, every sort of subtle movement of his foot or Crolin's foot on the dusty stone. Goes in for another strike. You can have a boost for that. Good. Slave on.
That and that. No, I can't see it. What's going on with this thing?
One success, 2 advantages. Very good. Oh, you didn't roll your extra setback, mate.
Oh, did I roll?
You had 1. You did 2.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. No successes, 2 advantages. That'll do.
Of course it was.
Chain lodges it. This time, he with his advantages. This time, he's much more composed. They exchange a few attacks and parries. There's a riposte back and forth before Krolin manages to get in under Chain's guard, sort of jabbing him again in the chest with the blunt edge of the poker and sort of knocking him back a couple of feet, sort of demonstrating. Just poked you in the chest, just stabbed you in the chest. Discipline and humility. Care for your mind, your body, and your soul. Be humble always before Kelos and your fellow man.
That easy though, when there's so much fear and doubt everywhere.
The fear.
People look at you as if you're supposed to have the answers. How do you maintain that peace?
By facing it. You must face your fears and overcome them.
Having high discipline.
He sort of steadies himself and sort of tries to take up his determination, and almost like, rather than picturing he's fighting Krolin now, he's sort of trying to picture that he's fighting Siegfried at this point. And Siegfried being his biggest fear at this point. And sort of like, I will beat him. I will him to yield. You know, this is the path. This is the way. Yeah. And then
Go for it. Have 2 boosts on this one. That was excellent.
Yes. It's 2 setbacks, right?
Yeah. one for Colin's defensive stance, I suppose, and one for because stick's a bit shorter.
Yeah, okay.
Three successes, one advantage. Okay. With Siegfried in mind, and his mind sort of calmed, Chain steps forward, managing a good series of blocks and parries. He's taken to a place long ago where he could duel and spar with his friends. He's in a much more comfortable environment. Colin moves in a way that doesn't seem quite like any other knight he's fought with. There's a conviction, there's a zeal that just doesn't seem. Certainly the marshals can be zealous, but this is something else. There's a fire here. As he puts Crolin on the back foot. Good. Poverty, sacrifice. Own nothing save your conviction. Possess nothing but your faith. Be ready to sacrifice all in the name of your duty.
Little attachments. Those that I do have, I hold dear. It is Kaos's will to dispense all in order to bring his light, save others. It is sacrifice or gladly bear.
Colin goes on the attack this time. Are you sure you're ready to sacrifice everything? Have a look. Colin profile. Red, right. Test. Okay. It's my move poke, really.
Sorry, did you want me to do something?
No, sorry. Colin's the one going on the aggressive now.
Oh yeah, sorry, cool.
And I'll give you a story point back as well. There we go. Can't remember what his stats were, but we'll do that. Well, I'll do that. Four successes from the Red Knight's test. This time, Colin very much backs you up all the ground you just gained, putting you with your back to the flames. Courage. Be prepared for battle, be it temporal or spiritual. At all times, champion the good against the forces of evil. As he backs Chain up and gets him into a sort of slightly vulnerable position, he says, "These are the vows of a knight of Kelos. You must be ready to prove yourself worthy of them all. Do you answer the call?"
I answer with own conviction.
Go on, make a check. And see if you can use your conviction. But it's probably the same check as the Bilehall.
Okie doke. Yes. How many boosts? Just aim.
Oh, you can just have one.
2 setbacks. A red, 5 hole, and an upgrade. Right. Well, I can't see it now. You can see it failed.
It failed elegantly with 2 advantages. Chain drives Crolin back again in this to and fro. Manages to get the upper hand for a moment or so. before Krolin manages to sort of twist his poker in an upward arc, managing to sort of ping Chain's weapon out of his grip, sort of clatters onto the floor nearby. As he sort of lowers his poker to his side. You have great spirit. You are now a questing knight. Prove yourself worthy of the trials, and you will be a knight of Kelos. But you still have much to learn.
I don't have that. What does Kelos ask of me?
We'll worry about what Kelos wants of you later. For now, you can do a few things for me. I think it's time we had something to eat. Peel those potatoes, would you?
Yep.
Things relax. Yeah, things relax a little bit from that. Krolin has satisfied himself that Chain is worthy of the challenge, at least. And although Krolin is, as he's ever been in other media, a little stern and quiet at times, he's still good company. And this appears to be where he's been living. He's sort of consecrated this little place, this tiny piece of the Mistlands. Doesn't speak very much unless spoken to, but he's got lots of wisdom to pass on. And he seems to delight somewhat in making Chain have to work hard for things.
I can imagine. I guess the more time they sort of spend together, like Chain will sort of slowly like open up, and like his excitement of being with someone with like such a strong sort of like legacy behind them, like he'll start asking like small questions of like, what was it like when you started out, or did you really do this, or, like on that adventure sort of thing? And like you'll slowly start beaming up like a little child, basically.
Yeah, cool. Good. And I keep trying to call him Kelos. He's not Kelos. He's Krolin. There's a bit of a Freudian slip there, isn't there? Krolin sort of puts Chain through his paces. They're not together for a very long time, but the time is quite intense. There's some sort of combat training, less than I think Chain might have expected. Krolin certainly seems to disapprove of Chain having one style and him being pretty useless at anything else. So he sort of he conveys a disapproval, saying that Chain needs to always be ready, whatever happens. That he can't shirk his responsibility to hone his body as he'll have to swear to do as one of the vows. So he sort of punishes him for that by making him, I don't know, run laps and do stuff like that. So it's a sort of physically trying process as well as a bit of a mentally taxing one. Right, I've had far too much tango to drink, so I need a wee again. So just give me 2 seconds. Okay, recording's back on. So yeah, so it's an intense period that Chain spends with Krolin there. It's unclear exactly how much time passes, because it seems pretty full on. Krolin doesn't seem to sleep very much, and he certainly doesn't give Chain much chance to sleep. But at one point, quite early on in the process, sort of shortly after that first spar, Qualin places his hand over Chain's chest, and he feels this radiant warmth flow through him. His wounds sort of closing miraculously as Chain is completely healed by the flame of the cross.
But does that include the numerous criticals? I think
It does. Completely healed.
Yeah.
If the Chain had any doubts. Yeah, completely healed, all his strength gone, everything.
Oh. Yeah, cool.
So that was quite early on, but now that's after some prolonged period of training, after they've just gone through a sort of vigorous exercise. In the distance, through the mist, it's always kind of dusky and dark. It's very hard to keep track of days. Chain hears a distant sound of howling and horn blasts, which strikes him as familiar from their first arrival in the Mistlands. Crolin, however, seems unfazed.
Do you get that a lot here?
Crolin turns to the flames. He sort of looks at them in the campfire. The hunts are semi-regular. The depraved lords of Bilehall like to amuse themselves.
Are they worried about my friends? I've been left in this strange place. I don't know what that lady is going to make them do.
Crolin sort of stretches a hand out over the flames for a second. What if it is your friends currently in the hunt?
In taking part or being objective?
You are not ready to face a Lord of Bilehall, nor the evil that you must challenge.
Yeah. I already made that mistake once.
Colin sort of turns back and folds his arms. You must be willing to let them go if Terrinoth is to survive.
I must give up everyone in order to save everyone. And what is the point? Was that Anakin's philosophy?
I was starting to think that you had to do Anakin. Indeed, I've heard.
The lot of a Knight of Chaos is sacrifice. We give up everything that matters to us to save everything that matters to others.
See. I must lose them to save them. I guess that is something I'll have to bear.
Well, this is your challenge then. I see in the flames, Lord Acheron is on the hunt again, and he is gaining on your friends.
What must I do to protect them?
If you truly wish to save Terrinoth, you must stay here and finish your training. If you are not prepared to do that, then you must go.
Shit. This is the Luke delivering it.
It is a bit. I didn't, in my defense, I didn't realise I'd just written Empire Strikes Back. And after I'd finished writing it, and then I thought, Dan will appreciate this will be fun. We'll go for it anyway.
God,
I'm not very original, so yeah. We're just going to have to live with that one. Do you need some time to think?
Yeah. How long will my training take?
Judging by your progress so far, some time yet. You are nowhere near ready to face the enemy that is coming. The darkness is coming. Can you not hear it? The engine.
People keep saying that.
There are only 2 marks left. We are running out of time.
And what is a mark?
They are signs. I do not know what they are. All I know is that there are only 2 left. At the last, darkness falls. You hear the horn blast and the howling again. There is no one else who can save your friends.
Sorry.
What is going on, Jack?
Wait, sorry, I'll put the headphones back on.
Sorry about that.
No, it's alright, no, it's alright.
Sorry. Lost your tape. Sorry.
What was the last thing he said? Is there no one else, or
No, he said there is no one else who can save your friends.
right?
With the flames behind him, he's sort of cast into shadow. He's got this flame aura, but his whole body is silhouetted in it's just this black shadowy outline. There is a sort of cold sternness to the Red Knight.
Shane looks at the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Can he pick up anything from it himself?
Flames are sort of fickle little things. I think Chain would see potentially in the flames what he wanted to see. You know how fires dance and they create the shapes? I think Chain's mind would overpower whatever sign there is in the flames. He would see whatever he wants to see. They don't give him any guidance.
This was asked of you. You stood side by side. Here, the knight ran the champion.
Sorry, you're breaking up a lot.
Am I?
Yeah.
Was it better when I didn't have the headphones on?
It was. It's fine now, actually.
Yeah.
Feel free to put it back to where it was.
Hang on. I'll
take the headphones
Over
off.
the road.
And then I'll try and speak closer to the microphone. Was that breakout?
That's okay. Can hear you. Not quiet, but can hear you.
Yeah, it would say, if this was asked of you when you stood side by side with your companions when you fought Saradin, did you just so easily cast them aside?
Krolin briefly turns his eyes downwards and then looks back up again. We let a good man die to save the world. And I left them behind when I was called to it.
No, I'm not strong enough. And I keep botching every trial that's thrown against me. I don't know whether I could live with myself if I could just so callously turn my back on them.
If Krolin has a sort of emotional reaction to that at all, it doesn't show. Not that you can see his face very well because of the light being behind him, but it doesn't show. Just sort of nods his head and says, "If you must go, then go with Kalos. Should you prove worthy, his blessing will find you. But know this. I have seen it in the flames. One of your companions will be Terrinoth's doom."
Put that in quotes.
The howling and horn blast sounds again.
If I take from this point on, I swear will be in Kalos's name. I won't abandon those who have helped bring me to this point. Willie so can pick up someone else's mantle. You all must protect Terrinoth, not just the chosen few. With that, he starts packing up.
Krolin nods and has very little else to say. Chain obviously packs up quite quickly with the pressure of the hunt heavy on him, and departs from that sacred place. Yes.
One final thing he says just before he goes, just as he gets to the door, he stops for a moment and sort of like doesn't turn around, but he sort of like just speaks over his shoulder. I know you have fully committed yourself to the path. If I might be so bold in saying, I can think of at least one person who doesn't need a hero right now. I think she desperately needs a friend. and walks off.
Hey. There you go. That's a good line to leave on. Bianca.
Yeah.
That's Bianca he's talking about. His old hero friend who's struggling at the moment as he's off, called to a sacred duty. Cool. Jane rushes off in pursuit of the horn blasts and sounds of howling. They seem to fade into the mists in the distance. It's very hard to sort of figure out exactly which way to go. But he presses on, determined to do something, at least. After sort of what feels like hours of travel, eventually sort of feels a prick up his spine. The horn blasts and howling have stopped now, so he's a little lost as to which direction to go. Sort of panicking that he might already be too late. Feels a little prick up his spine, and turns just in time to defend himself as a marching silent skeleton swings a weapon at him. As he looks, he finds himself surrounded by the dead. Dun, 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 dun. Let's put these all up here to make it seem really intimidating. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. Not that you can necessarily see that, but the recording can.
Yeah.
As cold reanimates, dagger-wielding reanimates, mist-shrouded reanimates, and steely reanimates close in around.
Hell.
I was going to run this as a combat encounter, but that I think might take a bit too long, so we'll just we'll hand wave this a bit. What does Chain do?
Around him, right?
Yeah, they're closing in from all around.
I'll try and make this as satisfactorily narrative as possible.
Good.
What it will do is he'll reach for the one-handed sword. That will make a difference. He will hold it in two hands, purely so he's more in a stance that he's more comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But so he'll hold it in like his normal stance, and then he'll sort of reflect on what Colin said about having to adapt his fighting technique.
Mm-hmm.
So he sort of adjusts it, like, okay, this needs to be more fluid. It can't be as rigid as just brute force now. It has to be more. I have to lean on another skill set to get this to work. Then he will center himself, as he did when he fought Colin that time, and we'll go like. His name. Take a deep breath, and then rather than charging forward, he'll sort of like decide to stand his ground and wait for one of them to attack him. Mm-hmm. It's more of a defensive parry and like deflection sort of style.
Yeah.
Just a hack and slash.
Very good.
That's what he's going to do until one of them attacks him, basically.
Go ahead and make a hard difficulty melee light check for me. 3 rolls.
Hard difficulty melee light.
Chain, so it's 2 successes, 1 threat. Chain moves to counter-attack as one of them lunges forward. And these are the uncoordinated, rudimentary, regular shambling dead. These are not the terrifying, deathborn legionnaires of legend. As Chain sort of deftly cuts one down and then another. He is struck on his shoulder by one, takes a bit of a glancing blow. His armor takes most of the hit, but he knows he's going to get a bit of a bruise under that as he then counterattacks to try and cut them down. But the shapes in the darkness just seem endless, pressing in closer. What does he do?
Try and create an opening to come through.
Yep. By attacking? By elbowing? By...
Yeah, because I don't know how long it's going to go on for. Yeah, it'll just try and cut through, I think. Just look in a certain direction, like I'll only cut the ones in that direction, sort of thing.
Yeah, go ahead and make the same check again. One success, one advantage. Chain spots a likely opening, manages to expand on it by charging forward and counter-attacking on one reanimate and then another, knocking them down. He moves forward into a bit of open space. They don't move with any kind of significant speed, so he feels like he's managing to get some distance, but a few more still close in on him. As he's batting them away, taking the odd sort of knock every now and again. Never a serious wound, but the odd sort of battering from one of them. Another figure rushes into view, wielding two sort of short blades that reflect moonlight. They cut down a couple of the reanimates closing in around Chain. The figure turning to look at him from a short distance away. It's an elf with a sort of long brown-haired braid. Her eyes sort of reflecting the same kind of moonlight colour. She looks Chain dead in the eyes and says, "We will need to work together to cut our way back to the tower."
Works for me.
You take the left, I'll take the right. And so she leads the way. Go ahead and make another hard difficulty melee light check for me. Oh. Chain on the left and the stranger on the right. Chain manages to sort of push through those opposing him, but takes a bit of a hit in the process. Meanwhile, the other who's come to his aid happens to be wearing a long sort of grey cloak that resembles the mists around her. She doesn't make very much in the way of progress on her side. She's keeping them at bay. None of them can get very close to her, but she hasn't moved forward at the same sort of pace that Chain has, and has therefore fallen behind. What would you like to do?
Now, like, is the crowd significantly thinner on my side now? Because he'd like to help her, but I don't know, it's a situation like if he goes to help her, one, that's kind of disobeying what she said, and then two, it might make the situation worse. Both of us in that situation.
I think he thinks it would benefit for him to help in some way, at least, if that's maybe keeping the path open, rather than necessarily going back, if that makes sense.
No, sure. Okay, yeah, so I guess so instead of like pressing forward, he's just like, okay, I have to keep this opening, basically. So once again, he sort of roots himself and goes, you know, as they come forward, I'll cut them down defensively.
Okay, as Chain keeps the way open, eventually the stranger cuts away back to Chain, and they progress on. the dead become thinner and thinner as they go forward until at last they are on their own again in the mists. Chain notes that his companion seems to be unfazed by the mists and can move at ease through them without any signs to navigate by. And for the rest of their journey, they don't encounter any more of the dead. She doesn't speak very much, but shortly after they are past the worst of the dead, she turns to him and says, "Are you well? Are you injured?"
No. In fact, I think I'm the best I've been for quite a while.
I've always been intrigued by the levity of humans. You are in a strange surroundings to feel so well.
It's been quite the week.
You are not concerned for the well-being of your friends?
There you think. Supposed to be tracking a hunt.
The hunt has concluded. Do not worry, your friends are safe. I was told to keep an eye out for you.
Brilliant. They now.
They are at the Tower of Aegean.
I spoke of the tower.
It is a safe place. It is the last camp of the Mistwatch.
Must take me there.
Sorry, you broke up.
Then you must help take me there.
All in good time. I still have my hunt to complete. You seem capable.
What are we hunting?
We hunt the dead, of course.
Like a reasonable thing to hunt?
They are agitated by the presence of the Lord of Bilehall. I must make sure they do not get anywhere near the tower. You can assist me in this. Was your time spent with the Knight of Kalos beneficial?
More than I think more than I think I appreciate, to be honest.
Good. I don't suppose you managed to persuade him to assist. Long has he dwelt on his hilltop, looking for signs from his distant god?
A man like him only listens to one person, but I have a good feeling it was beneficial to both of us.
Well, you are very optimistic. Not the first optimistic human I've met in a few days. It's a curious thing in the Mistlands.
Who do you serve?
I am Ada. I serve the Mistwatch, if I have any master at all.
Does Shay know anything about the Mistwatch?
He would do, yeah. They are they're an organisation of scouts and soldiers that largely...
Who Amy's character was? Like...
Once upon a time, yeah.
Once upon a time, yeah, okay, yeah, too roughly know the order because I read up on it. Yeah, okay, it's those people.
Yeah.
Got it.
They are responsible for keeping an eye on the Mistlands, I suppose. They're a bit like marshals, really, but with a very set purpose. Sometimes called fog runners or grey cloaks, because of the grey cloaks.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
She's yeah. But there are very few of us left now.
Especially out in these parts, I reckon.
Less than is required.
Why do you stay?
It is my duty to stay. To protect what little flame there is left.
Fair enough.
'Twas not so long ago that there were many in the Mistwatch.
Changed.
The Dark Army rose and did great battle with the Mistcloaks. Now we are but few. One tower and one camp.
Darkness is coming.
Yes. Can you hear it?
Not as well as everyone else can, seemingly.
Have you heard
Does it
it?
sound like?
Like a machine.
Has Shane ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, if you remember when they were coming into the Mistlands at night, they would occasionally hear this distant clanging and banging and grinding sound in the distance.
Oh!
Only at night, and it was never quite clear if it was a real memory or not. It's only in the Mistlands that they've heard it.
Since being here, he will say retroactively then.
It's getting louder. Used to be only I could hear it during the day. Now some say they hear it. Come, let us go on our hunt. The Countess, Captain, will want to speak to you when you get to the tower. There's a message she wishes relayed to the Citadel.
By all means.
And so they set off on a little hunt. Ada seems to be able to hunt the dead with relative ease. She knows where they are, which helps her to move around without being detected. But together they deal with a few sort of roving bands and then travel together to the tower, which is this ruined elven tower atop the hill, where Chain finds both his companions and all that remains of the scouts of the Mistwatch. There he will meet Artemis, who is the current captain of Mistwatch, and she will likely reiterate her request to the others, repeating that they know something is massing in the mists. The sound of the engine getting louder means something is coming, and the Mistwatch are woefully unprepared to deal with it. They need help. The Barons haven't responded to their calls for help. And so they are imploring the Citadel to assist them before the end comes. And that's it. That's your lot. So
Fantastic.